Ladies and gentlemen, for joining me in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. In our top stories tonight, he came second in the October 7, 2018 presidential election in the Republic of Cameroon according to results of elections Cameroon and the Constitutional Court. But he has continued clamoring for what he qualifies as his stolen victory and calling for a recount of results of the last presidential election, and now he is behind bars. Professor Maurice Kamto and other leaders of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party were arrested here in the economic capital Douala yesterday, and they have been detained in the nation's political capital Yaounde. And politicians, political analysts and legal minds are decrying violation of the law by forces of law and other in their efforts to crush the protest move organized by Professor Maurice Kamto's party in several towns across the country last weekend. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the news on Equinox Television. The national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party, Professor Maurice Kamto, and other leaders of the party, as well as some militants, are now in detention in the nation's political capital, Yaounde. They were arrested yesterday here in the economic capital, Douala. Professor Maurice Kamto and other leaders were arrested in the course of a meeting at Albert Zongan's house in the Douala 5 municipality yesterday, and there was a violent confrontation between some militants of the CRM political party, more than 100 of them, who converged on the residence of Albert Zongan when they heard about the news of the police threatening or trying to arrest the national president of the party. And there was a confrontation between the militants and the forces of law and other. In the course of the confrontations, gunshots were heard and tear gas fired to disperse the protesters, and some of them were arrested, and they are now in the nation's political capital, Yaounde. And some of the militants who were injured during the Saturday's protest in some towns of the country, including Celestin Jamin, have equally been taken out of the hospital, and they are equally in detention. Some are in detention in unknown places till now, while the national president of the party, Professor Maurice Kamto, is in detention at the special operations arm of the police force in Yaounde, and the other leaders are in detention at the judicial police in the nation's political capital, Yaounde. We caught up with the Secretary General of the CRM political party, Barrister Don Christopher, on phone from Yaounde, and this is what he told us.
Yesterday by evening, Professor Maurice Kamto was at the residence of Mr. Zongang Abe, and they were rounded up by police officers. The message was spread around. The militants started pouring in so as to save the arrest. They came in their good numbers, but they made gunshots at the air, dispersed the militant, and they penetrated and entered and arrested Zonga and Maurice Kamto, including a coca. Now, when they came out, they had to arrest more than 100 of our militants that were outside, brutalized some, scattered them and carried them away. So this morning, I've had reliable information that they have been carried to the judicial police in Yaounde. For all that I know is that this is as a result of the protest march that we did all in three major towns of the country, Baksam, Douala, and Yaounde.
Barrister, what about the militants who were admitted in hospital for the injuries that they incurred during the protest move? We have information that some 2 militants were taken out of the hospital in Yaounde to an unknown destination, as well as Celestin Jamin, who was taken out of hospital here in Douala to Yaounde. What is happening with those militants? What is their situation?
What is very clear in my mind is that of Douala, Celestin Jamin and the other were carried away to the judicial police. They were equally taken to the judicial police, though they have not yet recovered from their bruises, the wound that they sustained during the strike action. And many other new ones were arrested and taken over. So that is the situation with them. But as for Madame Doki, she has not been arrested as one of those patients. So for the few patients that remain in hospital, most of them too were released after the incident on that same Saturday evening. The Benjamin remained and the other young man remained, so they are the people who were carried away to the best of my knowledge.
As a legal mind, what's your reading of the situation? What's your reaction to the repression that the forces of law and order are using against the MRC and other opposition political parties as far as public manifestations are concerned?
All illegal, because in fact they are not founded on any grounds. They just take fictitious grounds to think that people, it is a constitutional right to political parties and its militants to protest. It is in the constitution. We have a right to protest. And of course, I say illegal because the law is there. They say we should declare. We have declared our march. And so what was left for government was to send its forces, security forces, to guide the marchers until the end, and then release them in order not to cause havoc. But when you see the government start shooting at protesters, they were first, all those who were shot were not protesting. That is the first thing. They were shot, they were not yet protesting. That is the first illegality. Number two, the beating and maiming of people is not to the problems we are talking about. We are saying the government should stop killings in the northwest and southwest region. The separatists should stop killing in the northwest and southwest region. In fact, that is for the betterment, which government would have encouraged us to decry this act so that it comes to an end and we have a peaceful situation in the northwest and southwest region. When we want to cry on the fundamental rights of other citizens, we are being shot and arrested. It is not correct. That is an abuse of rights, an abuse of power. Number two, when we cried that the Nation Corps was withdrawn and that people had embezzled funds hugely from the project that were given all over the country, government, instead of investigating and getting the people to go, it starts promoting them. And we want to cry that the practice is wrong, that is bad governance, we are being shot, we are being arrested. Number three, when we say election results were stolen and that we won, they can do the recount, we are being shot, we are being arrested. So all of the acts perpetrated by government is illegal. And we say, in fact, it is a political ploy to in fact, create fear within the minds of Cameroonians not to cry out their rights again. This is a dictatorial regime, and this regime is bent to quiet anybody who wants to talk against them. In fact, in Europe, you see the people strike, they protested. Nobody is arrested, nobody is in prison. It is a developed country, that's where democracy and the rights of humans are being respected. Why don't they want to restore our rights? All of these rights are inscribed in the constitution of this country. Why do they think today our rights should be buried into a container? That is what we will never want to see. Because they don't want us to talk all of their ills, they begin to arrest people to intimidate them. So these are all tactics of intimidation. It cannot prosper. The action cannot prosper. The whole world is watching. The action they will bring cannot prosper because this is a police state. This is a military state. We thought the police and gendarmes were there to protect the citizens, but they are there against the citizens. So that is what we are declaring. They are the ones violating. It's just because they think that they can command the police and the gendarmes to clamp down and crack down on people carelessly. It is wrong. We are saying it is wrong and we are declaring, even if we have to die.
Barrister Christopher Ndong, Secretary General of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party, coming back on what happened yesterday at Albert Zongan's residence here in Douala, and of course reacting to the way the security forces are managing public protests in the Republic of Cameroon as far as political parties of the opposition and the civil society are concerned, and condemnations have been streaming in from different quarters. Politicians as well as civil society activists have been condemning the repression used by forces of law and order to crush public manifestations, notably the manifestations organized by the CRM political party in Douala, Yaounde, Bafoussam, Buda, Chang and other parts of the country, protesting against electoral hold-up and of course calling for the recount of results of the last presidential election in the Republic of Cameroon, and also protesting against the violence and the killings, abductions, destructions of properties going on in the northwest and southwest regions of the country within the context of the Anglophone crisis. They are also denouncing what is qualified as illegal exploitation of the country's resources by a clique of individuals, and the Cameroon People's Party, the CPP of Kabanwala Ejid, has also condemned the repression used by security forces as well as the Alliance of Progressive Forces, the APF, of Alice Sajo, and in her communique she indicated that what is happening now is similar to what happened in October 2016 when the lawyers and teachers took to the streets in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, which later quickly switched to an armed conflict, and warning that if nothing is done, things may get out of hand. And the government has also continued maintaining that the security forces have been professional in the way they have been handling the protest move by Professor Maurice Kamto's party. A political analyst has equally decried violation of the law. Innocent reports.
This video that has gone viral on social media since Saturday, January 26, 2019 has attracted widespread criticisms regarding this barbaric acts of a Cameroonian security element and in general the gross violation of human rights by the Cameroon police force. Acts against a law empowering peaceful protesters to manifest in public, notably the use of firearms by security forces.
La loi sur le maintien de l'ordre dit que
a political analyst on the French debate program Droit de Reponse on Equinoxe television indicates that the law on maintenance of order in Article 3 condemns the use of arms in any public peaceful manifestation.
Même si c'est une arme de dissuasion, c'est interdit.
And in no circumstance should a security element descend to a manifestation scene armed.
Tirs en l'air sont interdits.
He says the law precises that shooting of whatever sort is forbidden during efforts to institute order.
Donc, qu'est-ce qui peut justifier que
what happened during the CRM peaceful protest, which saw many unarmed protesters shot, he says, is gross violation of the law. To the political analyst, the law tolerates the use of only
la loi autorise les bâtons,
baton and tear gas,
lacrymogènes. Uniquement, voilà les deux instruments que la police, qu'on peut voir la police traîner pendant une opération de maintien de l'ordre.
But if the peaceful protest takes a different twist and the protesters armed, then security forces are authorized to use arms.
Appel à l'autorité administrative qui peut à ce moment-là requérir l'usage des armes. Mais il faut qu'on ait en face des manifestants armés.
A contrary situation witnessed Saturday during the peaceful protest, during the peaceful march of the CRM militants, supporters and sympathizers, as some of the unarmed protesters were brutalized and shot. According to the Ministers of Communication and Territorial Administration, no live bullet was used on the protesters, hospitalized, and some arrested while in the hospital. This video circulating on social media tarnishes the image of the Cameroon Defense and Security Forces and brandishes the irresponsible attitude and ignorance of some men in uniform of the law guiding their profession. Repressive acts which, according to commentators, promoted the Anglophone crisis to what is today termed armed conflict between Anglophone pro-independence fighters and the Cameroon military.
We equally caught up with another legal mind, Barrister Celestin Kengum, who takes a critical look at the arrest of the leaders of the CRM political party. In this report compiled by Innocent Aze. Innocent Aze with this report on the reaction of another legal mind, Barrister Celestin Kengum, who says that the arrest of Professor Maurice Kamto and other leaders of the CRM political party could be illegal if the law that governs the arrest of an individual out of his area of residence were not respected.
Barrister Celestine Kengum, lawyer at the Cameroon Bar Association, confirms a citizen can be arrested at his residence and even in a hospital on the condition that some regulations are respected.
If you committed an offense in Yaounde, but you live in Douala, judicial officer of Yaounde or the prosecutor can order an arrest against you, and this arrest, they transfer the order to the prosecutor in Douala, and the prosecutor in Douala appoint an officer, a police officer, to come and arrest you. When they arrest you, they come and confirm to the prosecutor that you have been arrested. Then after that, they can transfer you where you have committed the offense.
Concerning the arrest of the leader of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party, Professor Maurice Kamto, and other militants and supporters of the party on Monday and Saturday in Douala, Barrister Celestine Kengum says is perfectly legal if and only if formalities and regulations to do so were strictly obeyed.
They can arrest you everywhere, but that depends on the subject and that depends of the place.
He adds that politicians like Professor Maurice Kamto and his militants do not benefit jurisdictional or diplomatic immunity and can be arrested anywhere within the national triangle.
According to the law, they cannot arrest somebody which has a diplomatic immunity or jurisdictional immunity. So you cannot arrest a diplomat. You cannot arrest somebody with a certain power. You cannot arrest a governor like you arrest any citizens. That depends on the places. Mean that according to international law, you cannot arrest somebody inside the embassy, because the embassy is a territory of another country.
To the legal mind, arresting a citizen in a region and transferring him to another region without due respect of terms is equivalent to abduction and gross violation of the stipulated law.
And a civil society organization, notably the Network of Human Rights Defenders in Central Africa, REDAC, has equally reacted to the arrest and detention of leaders of the CRM political party and, of course, the repression of the protest move, the repression of the protest move organized by the CRM in some towns across the country. The non-governmental organization highlights the violation of international laws. The reaction of REDAC.
Speaking to pressmen and women in Douala, January 29, 2019, the Network for Human Rights Defenders in Central Africa, REDAC in its French acronym, kidnapping and abduction of Professor Maurice Kamto, national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party, close party aides and supporters of his party. To REDAC, this is a flagrant violation of the provisions of the international rules, and the government of Cameroon should immediately and unconditionally release them. REDAC members also highlighted what they call brutal and bloody repression of peaceful protesters perpetrated by Cameroonian forces of law and order, with unequivocal order of those REDAC qualify as zealous administrators. According to REDAC, dumbfounded and appealing protesters, among whom women have been seen shot, though with rubber bullets in some cases, in streets across several cities in Cameroon, and others being tear-gassed by forces of law and order, which is a violation of their basic rights, and the civil society organization says these acts as inadmissible and intolerable. Citing the cases of Celestine Jamin and Barrister Michel Ndoki, REDAC demands the government of Cameroon to open an investigation in order to track down perpetrators of violence against civilians. REDAC is also worried about the deepening conflict in the northwest and southwest regions, which they say has brought incalculable consequences in terms of loss of lives, arbitrary killings, thousands displaced, and an adverse economic impact. Insecurity, highway robbery in the Adamawa region of Cameroon, road accidents, and Cameroon's failure to host the AFCON 2019 equally preoccupied REDAG as they launch activities for 2019. REDAG also called on the clergy, journalists, members of the national and international community to join hands in checking the excessive use of power by government authorities.
For me, Armstrong Standard reporting and reactions have equally been raining on social media, with many social media users calling for the immediate release of leaders of the CRM political party arrested and detained in Yaounde.
Different reactions have stormed social media in regards to the arrest of the leading opposition leader of the Cameroon Renaissance movement, Professor Maurice Kamto, alongside Abed Zongang and Celestin Jammeh. Kawala of the Cameroon's People's Party noted that, I quote, confirmation from several sources, arrest of Maurice Kamto and Abed Zongang in Douala, Alain Fogué placed in custody in Yaounde, Celestin Jammeh pulled out of his hospital bed to be arrested. The Biya regime intensifies and consolidates its repression. Barrister Keremona, leader of the Now movement, added that Kamto and many others arrested. In this unfortunate attempt to show strength, we discover a government too weak to dialogue, too incompetent to understand the cry of its people. Jean-Michel Ninche, a militant of the Social Democratic Front, on his Facebook page equally noted that we are demanding for the immediate release of Kamto. Alice Sadio, head of the Alliance of Progressive Forces, APF, on her part wrote that questioning and deportation to Yaounde might be the chronology of the events that occurred in the two Anglophone regions, which is now witnessing a chaotic environment. The same causes would produce the same results in a different context. Such tension is exaggerated in such a country which is already guided by the military in three fronts. We are demanding the immediate release of Maurice Kamto and all those who were equally arrested. Many other reactions keep stirring up on social media in regards to the arrest of these militants.
Reactions on social media compiled by Immaculate Fogwe, the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement CPDM political party, has equally issued a release signed by the Secretary General Jean Kwete. The Secretary General of the Central Committee condemned the protest move of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party, qualifying it as illegal and calling on the authorities that be to take actions and bring to book all those who masterminded or took part in the protest move organized by the CRM political party. And the Minister of Communication, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, equally issued a release today continuing to condemn the protest move of the Cameroon Renaissance movement, and indicating that measures will be taken to ensure that all those involved in the destruction at the country's embassy in Paris, France, and the protest move in other parts of the country will be brought to book or will simply face the law. And we are receiving in this newscast another legal mind, Barrister Nkamwa Limen. He is the head of the Nkamwa Limen law firm. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Mr. Babila.
When you look at the reaction of forces of law and order in quelling down or crushing the protest move by the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party, what's your take on the way the protest move was handled by security forces?
Well, in the usual style of exaggeration. You know, we've discovered in all manifestations in this country that the military, the police, they always exaggerate in the use of force, and reasons why we keep on having the situation gets bad than being arranged because of the use of force.
And the use of force seems not to be solving the problem but aggravating it.
Of course, the use of force will only aggravate the situation, because why do people come out? People come out because they have grievances against the state, and they have the right to air their views. Now, on one hand, the state the laws are that they should not come, the people don't have the right to manifest, which is against the international law. duly ratified by the Cameroon, by our country, and when you look at our constitution, it states that these laws, these international laws, treaties that we sign, they take precedence over national law. And we, in that same constitution, say that we want to enforce the provisions of the International Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. But when you look that people don't have even the right to associate, people don't have the right to talk, it becomes very worrisome and shows that it's a government that has failed and does not think that dialogue can resolve problems.
Now, the CRM political party says that all the manifestations were declared according to the law concerning public manifestations in Cameroon. And on the other side, government authorities, the Minister of Territorial Administration, the Minister of Communication say the manifestations were illegal. What does the law say? What does the law say about all of this?
I begin by condemning such bad faith from those government officials. When it comes to CPDM, there is no violation of law. When it comes to any other political party, they start talking about illegality. What does the law permit people to gather and express their expression? Oh yes, it does. And if we limit ourselves to our national laws, then we're making a mistake, because, as I said before, we have duly ratified conventions, human rights conventions that permits us to air our views, our political views. So it is just worrisome and an act of stupidity, as I would say, for people to react and think that others don't have the right to talk.
But the law permits, it is enshrined in the Constitution, public protest is a right.
Of course, when you talk about the Constitution, you talk about the ground norm, the biggest law of the country, which states that we adhere, the Cameroon state adheres not to the UN Charter and to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And then the subsequent covenants that were signed in 1966, which is that of human rights covenants. And one of it is that we have the right to contribute in our political life. We have the right of movement, right of speech. And so when you sign those conventions, and in the same constitution you say that they take precedence over national law, it means that what? That even if there's a national law that states that you should not, it is in conflict with that of the constitution. And so it is a constitutional right for people to come out and to air their view. It is a constitutional right.
Now, what is usually highlighted to justify the repression usually experienced during protests organized notably by political parties of the opposition or civil society organizations is that is what is known as threats to public order. This point is always highlighted.
Why is it only focused on opposition leaders, opposition rallies? CPDM, they does their rallies without any intervention. Does it mean that the CPDM cannot violate and they cannot pose a threat to national security? It is wrong. It is wrong. The truth is that they are afraid. When you have skeletons in your cupboard, you are afraid. Why would it bother them for somebody to reivindicate his victory if he feels that he actually won?
But the Minister of Territorial Administration, for example, was saying in his press statement that how is it possible? How can an election come and go 4 months after? You're still calling for the recount. That is when somebody dies in his village, they don't go and do cry after so many months. He's crying out for his victory. He's crying out for his victory, and a man like Kamto will not do all these things without believing and having proofs that he actually won. And to be honest with you, he's somebody I respect a lot, that a man of his caliber, with all his comfort, he would come out to fight for others, because if it's his life, he has succeeded. And they were equally protesting against the violence going on in Anglophone Cameroon. And
it started in this same light, that people wanted to air their views and others think that they cannot talk. Do you know something? You cannot force people to be quiet all the time. And to me, it is the opposition leaders should come out equally like Kamto and say that enough is enough. He has started a revolution. To me, it's a revolution he has started. And others should not be afraid. Others should come and say, okay, if you want to lock Kamto, lock everybody. Lock everybody.
Now, the arrest of Maurice Kamto and the other leaders yesterday at the residence of Albert Zonga and the Douala 5 municipality took place in the private residence. Yes. What is the law saying about the arrest of persons in the private residence?
Well, meeting. I adhere with Senior Barrister Kingum, who says that an arrest depends on the crime, the offense committed, and that it could be done at any time. Yeah, maybe they are arrested maybe for what for the march past they did before and some other things. But what I'm saying is that, to me, it is baseless. It is legally baseless to have arrested him because he took a peaceful march. It is baseless.
All right, Barrister Kamwa Limen, head of the Kamwa Limen law firm here in Douala. Thanks for coming.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for this edition of the news. Goodbye.